Conscious awakening. What is it? What is it not? Does it make us one of the woke community, in which case we should be ashamed? Here's the good news. Nobody gets left out, ever. And here's the bad news. Nobody gets left out, ever. Because as Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Let's not put too much investment in the pain, as is our habit. Let's look at the conscious awakening. So when there is, maybe out of pain, a realization that this consciousness, ourselves being conscious, is here, irrespective of what is being experienced, whether it be a physical sensation, an emotional effect, or a thought, that this consciousness is here before, beneath, and behind any kind of impression or experience. This is the start of a conscious awakening. And in that shock of consciousness appearing, in the gap between thoughts, there can be even a consciousness of consciousness. It's like the I am that Moses heard God declaring himself or herself or itself from out of the burning bush. Give me your name. I am that I am. Consciousness of consciousness. And where we have consciousness of consciousness, it's quite intimate. And immediately there can be a whiplash of shame or prohibition or fear of insanity, because there's nothing in this dimension at that moment in terms of thought structure or belief or identity or story that we're able to hold on to. So is there a consciousness which you are, which is awake here now, behind and unconditional to any thinking that's happening? So first, let's look at it logically. You are getting impressions of my voice speaking about what it is to be one of the woke crowd. As you are getting these impressions, there's a gap. You don't have to believe in it. You can hear the voice, you can process the ideas, but there is a gap where you don't yet know what your response is or what you think about it. You're receiving this informational flow, and there is this gap, which you could say is a gap of pure choice or pure consciousness. And in that place of pure consciousness, there is a freedom then to invest in a response. She is speaking rubbish, or she is the Messiah, or she is not making any sense right now. In that gap, there is a consciousness of consciousness. There is a place where we can, almost like a mirror reflecting a mirror reflecting a mirror, realize that consciousness is not ultimately hinged to the identity, to a thought, to a story, or even to a person. There is this alive awakeness, this living awake perceptive ability. And as this living awake perceptive ability, we will call consciousness, becomes conscious of consciousness of itself, it can also become conscious of conscious of conscious of conscious. And it's like a bird flapping its wings above the terrain of the busy mind, or the thoughts, or the story, or the person that we identify with. Georgie that just came from walking the dog and who is 50-something years old, I don't know, lost count, this one. And this bird is flapping, conscious of conscious of conscious of conscious of conscious. It's even got a rhythm and an acceleration movement from one layer of form towards increasing dimensions of formlessness. Wider expanses of space, wider expanses of time, and there is just this living awakeness. So this is partly what conscious awakening is about. And it involves touching some kind of bedrock of reality, some kind of space inside ourselves where we let go for a moment, maybe out of pure cynicism, maybe out of pain, maybe We're just too tired to hold on to the structure of thought, or the structure of belief, or the structure of striving, or to grasp, to hold on to the structure of holding on, of grasping. And for a moment we let go, meaning all hell can break loose. And what happens is we're still here. There is this consciousness. There's a consciousness which is here when we first wake up in the morning. Before we are shmulik that wants falafel, that has an itchy colon and an argument with his girlfriend. There's a consciousness there before we put on this garb of being an identity in a culture, in a story, in an age group, in a generation, in a profession, in an activity. And this consciousness is there like the still light of dawn. And often what we do is feel that this is nothing. This is just a kind of gap that we fly over like a bird hopping from one roof to the next to get to that place of being somebody. And if we were having an argument the night before with our beloved, we say, oh, what was going on? Ah, yes, there was an argument. Let me get angry again. Let me remember why I am in this contraction. Let me again plan what I am going to say or strategize how I'm going to deal with this conflict. And there we go. Back inside the belief that we are defined by some kind of reactive structure which was born before we even got a look in as to what was really serving the well-being of the whole field of our experience. So when we wake up in the morning, there is this consciousness of conscious. We're moving from the formless core of all we are, full of ultimate potential to be anyone, anything, anywhere, into a kind of limitation, taking on the role, the position, the point of view of this life. And when we're falling asleep at night, we undress the mind, we undress the heart, we undress the body, metaphorically. Some of us sleep in nightgowns. And we release all of those structures and glide back, imploding into this formless, wide expanse of ourselves. We exit inside. And what's exiting? It's this aspect of individual consciousness, which is now reuniting with the whole consciousness, leaving the limited forms of investment, the doll's house of a lifetime behind, to refresh, to rejuvenate, to recuperate. These are 3 entry points to come to the awakening of consciousness. The first, when you wake up in the morning, makes sense. Consciousness awakens. Catch it awakening before it becomes a drag. When you're falling asleep at night, let it be a blessed undressing of the body, mind, structure, identity. You do not have to be anybody at all to be free as a conscious, unique, amazing expression of space. When you're struggling in a particular conflict, conflict is good for coming to consciousness. When you're in a conflict, really show up with your consciousness to listen, to attend to the thoughts which are happening. The busy mind, notice the thoughts which are repeating. Notice the one which is noticing. Become conscious of the one which is noticing the noticing. Follow this ladder. It's like Jacob's ladder, back up into the light of your spirit. There's a refresh there. There's a reset there. And of course, what comes afterwards is sometimes all the reasons why we could not be awakened more often. Shame, a feeling of isolation, a fear of being bad or being wrong, an awkwardness, maybe a feeling of existential lostness. So if these vibrations are like clouds and mists on the road to the light as we climb this ladder of consciousness, just pass through them. They're gaseous impressions. They come and they go. They are not who you are. They are an experience appearing in the consciousness which you are. And what we're talking about in awakening is consciousness reuniting with consciousness. Now, one thing which we might find as we begin to awaken is we regress back to this kind of teenage space where we feel very self-conscious, awkward, possibly dissociated. Meaning when we move into the social field, or sometimes when we're just surrounded by trees or cows, we get this self-consciousness where we are as if seeing ourselves from the outside in. And this is one of the places, not where conscious awakening is damaging us, but where we have been stalled in our healing process of conscious awakening. Because when this consciousness outside of ourselves awakes, looking at ourselves very bright, it can be a little bit awful, this self-conscious feeling. It's almost like we're moving in slow motion. So let's say we're at a social event and everybody's in this and everybody's looking at everybody else. And there is this kind of pretentiousness because nothing feels like it can be quite natural. This is when a healing is happening of the fragmentation of consciousness. So what does the healing look like? It's a little bit like you're moving with your clothes on, feeling comfortable, into a street. And all around you, there are houses and the windows. You don't know who's looking at you from outside the windows, but you're moving out to a place where you're exposed, where you could be seen. And as you're moving out into the street, suddenly you are seeing yourself with your blue shirt on, you're seeing yourself with your silly headband on, you're seeing yourself with your body shapes, and you already tweak it a bit to make it a little bit fatter, that ass, and a little bit more schlumpy, those shoulders, and maybe your eyes are a little bit more dazzling. You start to even censor the image with which you are projecting that you are appearing from, but what's coming forward is the experience of shame, which is the fragmentation. So in this experience of shame, it's not pleasant. We feel in the belly squeezed out like a piece of toothpaste. Consciousness is not one. We are one, we are two, we are many, and we want to be one. So oneness is a kind of inversion from that outside-in gaze, where we project from inside, from our fears, what the outside is looking at when they look at us inside ourselves. So it's an inversion of that movement to this movement, where we walk outside and we feel the direct experience of being inside this blue shirt. Silky. We feel the direct experience of what it is to be physically moving, the warmth of the feet, the answer vibrational of the earth, the air on the face, what it feels like to open the eyes and to see. I see everything but myself. I see the blueness of the sky. What it's like when we open the ears to listen. We really listen. The mind goes quiet. We hear everything but ourselves. And if we open up our sensitivity to really feel, we feel everything but ourselves. We feel the air, we feel gravity, we can feel the atmosphere. And in this movement, there is this consciousness which is formless, which is who we are, which is supporting and bringing home all of the possible experiences of fragmentation, because they disintegrate back into this wholeness of the consciousness which we are. So everybody is in a circulation of conscious awakening. Every morning, every moment of conflict, every catalysis of a thought process, every feeling, every physical encounter of any kind is a moment of awakening, 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 awakening. The only difference is that the woke people began to really cherish and resource those moments of conscious freedom, so that they become more and more nourishing with joy, happiness, well-being, and freedom in the ocean of togetherness. So the consciousness in me greets the consciousness in you.